You know, you don't need to be a professional mechanic to worry about spills and stains on your garage floor. I mean, look at me. I can't turn a wrench for nothing, and yet my garage floor is donezo. I should have got Drysorb. Drysorb is a universal absorbent made of 100% corn cobs. Biodegradable, it's all natural. It's 5 times more absorbent than clay, which means you use less for each spill. And it's perfect for cleaning up things like oil, coolant, trans fluid, or anything else you might spill on your garage floor. Just pour a ring of Drysorb around your spill, cover the top, sweep it back and forth, and you're good to go. What's not soaked with fluid can be used again. Hit the link in the description. I got a special price for you on this 10-pound bag of Drysorb, only from their Amazon store.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Canyons. It's a spectacular day for a drive. The fact that I don't sleep very well and wake up at 5 a.m. and I can just come out here before anybody is a great thing in the summer. It is nice and early, the sun is shining, and boy, 4th of July weekend is about to be off to a good start. I don't know when you're watching this, but it's the beginning of 4th of July weekend, which, how appropriate is the 2020 Shelby GT500. The 350 from a couple years ago, the 350R specifically, is pretty much my favorite muscle car, pony car, whatever you want to call it, of all time. I mean, just an extraordinary accomplishment, that vehicle. And now we've got the 500, a lot to live up to, but a really, really interesting car. The engine is a 5.2 liter unit, similar to the Voodoo engine found in the 350, but they get rid of that spectacular flat plane crank. They have a conventional crank, but then they use a supercharger, top mount supercharger, shared with the outgoing Corvette ZR1. And in this guy's 760 horsepower at 7,300 RPM and 625 pound-feet of torque at 5,000 RPM. Difference between that GM LT-based engine and this dual overhead cam-based engine is the LT's got more displacement, more grunt down low, so more torque. This one, better heads, better flowing up top, more revs, so a little more horsepower. That's sort of how that works. The blower itself, fun fact, requires 100 horsepower to run at full power, but it returns 235 extra horsepower. So it runs a whole separate oil supply, so it should be cooled properly. And apparently, from what we hear from our friends in other magazines, the engineers behind this car, they kind of already knew that everyone who buys one is going to do a pulley and a tune, so they stress tested this thing for extra durability. The real story with this car is the Tremec TR9070 dual clutch gearbox. It's similar to the unit found in the C8 Corvette. In this car, it holds more power and torque than the PDK gearbox in Porsche's GT2 RS. That is incredibly impressive. And as you can see here, it has rendered the ongoing Mustang cup holder problem totally moot. They said, move the cup holders because the shifter's in the way. They got rid of the shifter. Actually, this is the only automatic transmission equipped Mustang I've ever reviewed from the factory. It's the first one. We've been going manuals for 10 years, never done one with 2 pedals. So here we are. Let's have a drive and we can talk about more on the road. We're in sport mode. We're gonna start there with normal shocks, adjustable shocks, D, and then M, and here we go. Oh, traction, we'll just put it, it's just on or off. I love that. We'll start on. We got enough power. Here we go. Are we listening? Listen to that. When you rifle off the gear shifts, I determined that the GT500 is basically the future of muscle cars from about the first 200 feet of driving it. When I put it in D, and engaged the gearbox, I was like, oh, this is a new thing entirely. And what I mean by that is, it has really brought the Mustang, or specifically the Mustang's powertrain, well into the 21st century. If you were to close your eyes and drive this, something I do not recommend, but if you were to somehow do that without hitting something, you would wonder what new AMG you were driving. Because in the past, you've probably heard me talk about how Mustang horsepower isn't really the same as like Porsche horsepower or AMG horsepower. This is really the first Mustang I've ever driven where that formula seems to have been broken. Where you go, yeah, oh, this thing is not just making the power, it's getting the power down. And that is something really, really special. Clear? There we go. Sounds fabulous on cold starts. Dual mode exhaust. You can make it quiet if you want. Don't know why you would. You spent all this extra money to have it loud. And what's great about that, it stays in the mode you left it, folks. How many cars do you drive where you gotta re-put it in the mode every time? This thing stays where you left it. I've been leaving it in sport powertrain, normal shocks, open exhaust for 3 days, and every time I get in the car, that's the mode it's in. How genius is that? Now, the handling with 760 rear-wheel drive horsepower. Oh my God. You would expect it to be a total handful. Lessons were learned in the 350 program, and the, oh hello Evo on the side of the road camping, and the chassis is shockingly good. Body control, excellent. Oh, echoing off the canyon walls there. The turn-in is really good. This does not have, oh my God, whoa, that's so fast, you guys. This doesn't have the one kind of heavy hitter option, which is the $18,000 carbon pack, which gets you, among other things, carbon revolution, carbon fiber wheels, like the GT350R had. I don't know why they call that a carbon pack and they don't call it GT500R, because it's kind of the same thing. Are you guys listening to this in the noise of the car, by the way? Like Mustang ripping off DCT shifts like that. Bottom line, 305 PS4S fronts and 315 rears. The most shocking thing about that is not that it turns in well, because we know that putting 305s on the front of a Mustang is how you get it to turn in well. The most shocking thing is that it does not tramline. I know you guys watch these videos, there's almost a drinking game for that word, but 305 fronts, that's the kind of situation where you'd see that. And it doesn't happen here. But you know what does happen here? The tunnel! What do you think, second gear? I think second gear. Second gear from 2500. Best tunnel pull of the year. Easy best tunnel pull of the year. What a fabulous exhaust setup. Okay, the turn-in, like I said, PS4S is 305s at the front. Turn-in is fantastic. I have forgotten to look up the exact weight, but it's high threes. It really masks it up here, shrinks around you. In my garage, this car feels very big when I'm trying to park it and really place that nose as close to a car in front of me as I can. Up here, when it's open road, it feels nimble, agile. The size matters less. honestly, front parking sensors or a front camera would make a difference. I know that's kind of a cop-out. It's like, learn to park your car. Well, if I owned it, I would. But in the first couple of days, I drive a new car all the time, and those kinds of things are helpful to me. Listen to downshifts. I mean, that's like, mentally, that's the reprogrammer right there, is when the Mustang shifts like that, where there's no interruption in torque. It's a game changer in the vet. It's a game changer here. Not the least of which, because if I was totally honest with you, and I always try to be that, this isn't the kind of car where I want to have one hand on the wheel and the other hand on the shifter. I said it in my ZR1 review. At a certain point, the cars become too fast to shift with 3 pedals, and this car might be there. And please don't take away the manual in the 350. That's just too good. You would break hearts to take away the manual in that car. Now, I'd like to see that engine with this gearbox too. That would be real cool. They should do that just so they could race it that way. Now, road is a little smoother. We're going to go to the Sport Shock setting. And then we're going to go to our, how do I get there, drive mode. We're going to go to Sport to Track. Let's see what happens now. For track use, see manual. Got it, bub. Oh, the gauge cluster has changed to a really basic version of a Formula One style gauge cluster, but if you've used a race pack from more than 2 years ago, you'd kill for a cluster like this. You are not a cop. Gotta get up early to be here with me. Early, folks. Power is really extraordinary. I mean, big shocker, right? 760 horsepower is good. The thrust, and it's like you could go so fast up this road without ever going above 5,500 RPM. Just there's so much power there, you don't ever need to get in the top of the power band, and yet if you do, that's where Crazy Town starts. I don't like Sport Shocks. Oh, if you put it in track mode, your only options for shock are Sport and Track. Whoa, big number, guys. Love the way this thing rips off the gear shifts. All right, so I can go back to Sport Shock. It unlocks a track shock when you go into track mode. Okay, Sport is okay. Track was too stiff for the road. Track really means track. Smooth track. Wow. Feels great. It feels really stable and planted. And remember, there's more downforce and grip available. Those carbon wheels come with a special compound Cup 2 tire. The last 10% of the pedal at the last 1,000 RPM is, I've used the word a couple times, but that's where Crazy Town lives in this particular vehicle. Palms are getting lightly sweaty. The Recaro seats are brilliant. They're really good holding me in. It's a great driving position. The relationship between seat, wheel, and gauges is fabulous. I have a beautiful view of all the information I need in the gauges. If I was to make one criticism, I wish this Recaro seat would go down another inch, because I fear if I had a helmet on, I'd be cutting it close. And I also feel a little like in the E92 M3, how I'm a little bit sitting on top of and not down in the cockpit. I could go a little further down in the cockpit. That's like the Dumb and Dumber laugh coming out. That's where your brain cells are all gone. That's what the car's doing. Obviously, we're up here at altitude, 4,500 feet or so right now, and no discernible loss of performance here, without a stopwatch anyway. Amazing what a difference the gearbox makes into making it feel more exotic. I mean, certainly there's some plastic about. It is a Mustang in a lot of ways, but man, they spent the money where it counts, didn't they? They really did. Woo! Phenomenal body control. Really good connection between me and the road, especially in the sport shock setting. Got a little bouncy with track, but with sport, we're really maintaining that contact patch beautifully right now. And roll on it. Woo! Let's talk about brakes. They are steel. They're conventional. There's nothing super special about them. Their pads are shared with the GT350R. They're 6-piston front, 4-piston rear Brembos. Woo! Man, you don't need ceramics. They haul it down pretty good. Here, I want to show you this real quick. The turning radius, because of these 305s, checking traffic, turning radius, ooh, is horrible. Not good. It's tough if you need to 3-point it. Want to do a launch? Let's do a launch. As far as I know, it's just left foot brake and right foot gas, so launch control just comes up. Very easy. Here we go. Is that it? Yeah. No. That can't possibly be it. LC. No? Do I have to be in drive? That can't be right. Well, you just smash it and that works. One of these days I'm going to look up these procedures before. I'm not really a launch control guy. But I'll tell you what, if you're just sitting there and stomp the pedal, it does a pretty good launch. Thing in the road. Whoa! The power! Wow, when you're going downhill, that power is really quite accentuated. Shift lights on the window, I love that. I can actually see them even with my Dylan Optics polarized sunglasses. They're not affected the same way that a true heads-up display would be, so that's pretty cool. Thing is so fast. It's lovely. I hope people go and drive these. The GT500 is probably the least driven of all of the high-end pony cars. You just don't see them. You know, Ford goes all out of their way to make sure this thing is trackable, and we're not going to see these things at track days. That's sad. Oh, I just gave it some gas over a little whoomp there, and it was nice. Yeah, the brakes are good. You guys. You guys. This is a really special car. There is so much to like here. The engagement of the powertrain, it feels like there's less drivetrain loss than I've ever felt in a Mustang. Would I like there to be a manual gearbox? Of course I would, because I love manual gearboxes. At the same time, the pragmatic me says this car is probably too fast for most people to really be dealing with a manual gearbox at this point. And if that's going to be the case, this gearbox from Tremec is so much better than anything that's ever been in an American car before, excluding the Corvette, of course, the new Corvette, and excluding the phenomenal manuals they use in the GT350 and the old Ford GT. Paddles, right? Paddles. This is a gearbox that absolutely changes the game for the Mustang and the GT500. Now, just to go back to my notes, anything I missed. I love the power, the transmission, the position, blah, 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 blah. There's no burble tune, guys. They didn't do a stupid burble tune, so points to Ford. Things I don't like. The lack of the carbon fiber pack on this particular vehicle does make it look too pedestrian and cheap. I agree with what I said there. These wheels are not very special looking. If you're not going to get the carbon fiber pack, I would plan on some aftermarket wheels. And so the problem is, if you don't get the carbon fiber pack, it doesn't look as cool as it should. If you do get the carbon fiber pack, you're now talking about a $100,000 Mustang. What is your tolerance? Those carbon wheels make a big difference to how a car drives. The 350R versus the regular 350 proved that to me. So thank you to Ford for finally getting me this car. It was supposed to be during the shutdown, and here it is now over 4th of July weekend, so hoo-yah. And thank you to you for watching. What an interesting vehicle, great experience, and man, I do endorse this. And I'll see you guys later. Bye. Subscribe to our new podcast channel. Bye.
And remember, always fight your tickets. Go to offtherecord.com/TST or use code TST10 on the Off the Record app.